Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Hadrian. It's Michael. I don't want to do that. I don't want to use that name actually. So um, let me think. I guess I'll do that. I'll start over. Hello, Hadrian.
Hello.
Well, this is the second Bitcoins related chat for the GEI chat network, and I really enjoyed your comments and found them very informative in the last talk. So I thought our members would enjoy some further discussion. And you and I have been listening to a recent podcast from Clif High, and it'd be a really interesting place to start. So what I'd like to do is maybe just summarize some of the points that you mentioned and ask your comments on those. Now you may know, and our readers may know, Clif High is someone who was initiated the WebBox project, and he was one of the early adopters of Bitcoins. He's been promoting cryptocurrencies on his podcast for some years, and he usually makes some really interesting comments about Bitcoins in his podcasts. And the one from February 14th was actually pretty interesting, and he talked about MtGox and some of the related issues from that. So maybe the place I'd like to start here is some of his comments on MtGox. I mean, he did point out that MtGox was originally called the Magic Game Online Trading Network or something, which was shortened down to MtGox. Magic Game Online Exchange, I think it was, and that became Magic became Mount, and Games Online Exchange became Gox. So that's where the name MtGox came from. I didn't know that before. And they were never publicly set up as a professional exchange. They had a primitive back office, and the guys running it were probably too young to realize what was coming their way, so they didn't do enough planning. And it was sort of by luck, partly because it was first and functional, that it was the largest exchange. And when the volume hit them, they hadn't done the hiring, so they weren't really ready to cope with it, and nor have they anticipated some of the technical problems. Now, Cliff did say that he thinks the guys running MtGox aren't crooks, and he thinks they just simply took the wrong way of doing their verifications, and that left them open to the malleability problem. And I don't know if you have any comments on that. Whether you think guys were just surprised by what happened, or whether they were worse than.
I wasn't really surprised because
Um,
rumors about
uh,
MtGox for
I wasn't really surprised because there's been rumors about MtGox for a long time,
5 weeks
and I took the last of my coins out
to see that
about 5 weeks ago
price at the time was very much higher.
because I could see that,
$50
or the price at the time was very much higher, about $100 or $150 higher than, say, BTC-E. The only way to get my money out then was to buy
at about
Bitcoins through Gox
take them out.
at about
Wait
$900, I think,
price
and take them out,
$300
rather than wait until the price falls to $300 and they're not real Bitcoins,
Well, I want to
but
understand that a little bit more. If I can just ask
Mount.Gox
you about
imaginary
that.
ones,
So,
as we have
we
at the
saw a
moment.
period, I think, of several weeks where the MtGox price was $300 above the price on Bitstamp, and I think you just probably explained pretty well why that happened. But I'd like to go through that a little bit more slowly so everyone understands. So, someone who had money with MtGox, it would be silly for them to buy coins, but getting the money out was the problem. Is that right?
Yes, they said. I mean, you can put a transfer through.
Yes, they said, I mean, you can put a transfer through, and they said 6 weeks, which is a long time to wait for a transfer. I did it once you can only do €1,000 a month, and it sort of worked after about 6 or 7 weeks. And the next time it's still hanging in midair somewhere. So I did ask them, can I have my €1,000 back? So I'll see if it appears eventually. And so the only option was either do that and hope it appears, or buy bitcoins at inflated prices and take them out that way. So most of my fiat money on GOX I took out because I bought bitcoins at about $900, and I was able to get them out. So I guess it was a kind of a salvage operation.
So you get the coin now. If you have money sitting there, you don't want to gamble on the 6-week wait.
Yeah.
You take the money, you buy the coin at an inflated price, and you take the coin away. So it does show that actually coins are easier, crypto coins are easier to move around than money is.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting lesson. The other one is if coin shows a higher price than everybody else, and there are rumors the money's not coming out, you find that people are sort of panicking and taking the coins as a way of getting their in the exchange.
Except for the last 2 or 3 weeks, you couldn't get the coins out. So the price fell from about 900 down to about 300.
Except for the last 2 or 3 weeks, you couldn't get the coins out. So the price fell from about 900 down to about 300. But it's pointless buying them because if you can't get them out,
Well,
they're not real bitcoins. They're imaginary ones. So
because Cliff is of
there's
the
not much you can
opinion
do.
that people, and he may be wrong about this, but he's of the opinion that people who actually have coins with MtGox will eventually be able to get their coins. The market doesn't seem to think that. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. I'm not sure. I think it's possible because I
Yeah,
don't think
that's
they're
true.
crooks. I think they're,
I'm not sure. I think it's possible because I don't think they're crooks. I think they are not very competent. As I agree with Cliff actually that they're doing their best, and it's possible that people might get a bargain. I know that Andreas Antonopoulos says that there are people who are buying at GOX at $300 will have a 100%
So if you wanted to
gain
gamble on that,
once
you're not recommending this, but if
they can
somebody
get the
wanted to
bitcoins
gamble
out,
on that
which he
for
thinks they might.
$200 or something,
But
they could, transfer money into MtGox and buy the coin, and then wait and see if they can actually move them one day.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
So MtGox is presumably accepting new money from
yes,
the
exactly.
risk,
Yeah.
seekers who want to take that kind of gamble.
I think so. Yeah, seems to be.
Now, guys, we're crooks. How would they have
I think so,
benefited
yeah.
from
Seems
these
to
weird
be.
prices? Presumably, behind the scenes, they would have been buying coins from somebody else, from Bitstamp, at $200 or $300 lower, and then turning around and selling the coins on their exchange, at their own exchange, and pocketing the difference.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but I think they were just disorganized in what they were doing.
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
Again, like in
something
March
like
last
that.
year
Yeah.
when there was a
But I
vast,
think they were just disorganized in what they were doing. Again, like in March last year when there was a vast increase in purchases which they couldn't cope with, and
Interesting.
they
Well,
but
Cliff's opinion
similar thing
that,
happened this
the
year. They just
two
weren't prepared.
exchanges he thinks will be long-term survivors, and probably more than that. But the ones he thinks have the best chance of being long-term survivors are Bitstamp and BTC-E. Would you agree with that?
I would. I mean, I use Bitstamp because the transfers are easier through
I would. I mean, I use Bitstamp because the transfers are easier through a euro transfer. I have euros in Germany, which I use. And also, I've seen their CEO, a guy called Kodrich, who seems really very sort of together. BTC are in Bulgaria, and you have to use, I think, an account in Panama to get funds over. And I've heard less confident things about
I
them.
understand that
But they are cheaper as well,
BTC-E is
so
also
maybe
placed
you
with
have
other
a risk
cryptos,
premium there.
apart from.
few, yeah, Litecoins, Prime coins, and name coins, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
a few,
when this
a few,
sort of
yeah,
shock hit the
Litecoins and
market,
Prime coins and name coins.
not
yeah.
only did Bitstamps drop, but quite a number of the other cryptos have also dropped, some even more than Bitcoins. Has this created bargains, in your opinion, in some of the other coins?
It has. I know friends who've bought various old coins with.
It has. I know friends who've bought various old coins with bitcoins. The old coins shot up, and they made a few bitcoins out of nothing in a few minutes. you can do that because once you're in crypto land, it doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin or any of the others. There's no friction at all. You can get in and out of those things in seconds without having to wait through transfers. So there's no, as long as you get away from the interface between the fiat world and the crypto world, then everything moves very quickly. So there are opportunities for arbitrage, for really making very nice transactions.
Whether it's a good time to buy right now, which I think you believe it is. We're going to talk about that later, but and perhaps then we can also talk about what other coins apart from Bitcoins you might be buying at the present time. But before we go there, I would like to mention one or two other points that came up in Clif's presentation. He did talk about the need for a clearinghouse. His view is that we're in an early stage of the life of Bitcoins and the exchange stage, and he thinks we're moving from here into the next phase, which will be a clearinghouse phase. And I have to say, I didn't entirely understand what he meant, what was different about a clearinghouse. But I did understand that compared to other types of commodities, Bitcoins in a way are pretty simple because the coin itself is self-validating. So you don't have an issue as to whether it's gold, whether it's been assayed properly or not. You can simply see the validation happening with the miners. And of course, Bitcoins are fungible. They're all the same. And they exist in mature, deliverable form. So you don't have a problem of what do you do with the raw copper or gold? How do you turn it into something like a coin or a bar you can trade on the exchange? It's already there. So in a way, it would be much easier to set up a clearinghouse with Bitcoins than it would be with gold or copper or something else. So I wondered if you could work out, I really couldn't fully, what he meant and how that would be different from an exchange.
I'm not sure what he meant, but I think he's right that kind of institution will have...
I'm not sure what he meant, but I think he's right that kind of institution will have to arise. But it all depends on confidence. If you trust the people, then they'll have a following and it'll grow. And you're seeing that at the moment. That no one trusts Gox anymore because they haven't delivered on what they've said. But there is a need, because as you probably noticed earlier, I tried to send you some coins and it failed a couple of times because it's not ready at all for the mass market. So you need some kind of intermediary at the moment, and you will for maybe a year or so to deal with these issues. And the people who are doing it now are still learning. And there's a huge amount of misinformation. I mean, this weekend I gave a lecture on bitcoins, and people were asking about them. And every time I talk, people buy them. Because at least I carry it and so on.
Are they making any announcements about enhancements they're going to do, which might in fact lead them to becoming a clearinghouse or at least a more advanced exchange? For example, automation. This is something I've been having a little problems understanding. If I have now some bitcoins, thank you. I bought some from you, and thank you for delivering them. I now have those coins in my wallet, and I can now take those coins to Bitstamp or to BTC-E, and I can exchange them for other cryptos. And I gather that can happen pretty quickly.
Yeah. The largest exchange for other cryptos is Cryptsy.
Yeah. The largest exchange for other cryptos is Cryptsy. CRYP.
So if I wanted to take a punt on one of the other
they're
coins,
the biggest. They have about 100 or so.
Actually, the one other coin, Clif mentioned two other coins. I should probably mention this point as well. It was an interesting point he made in his podcast. He said that he thought that over the next 3 years, he didn't think it would happen much more quickly than that. For the next 3 years, he thought most of the other coins were going to disappear. And he gave a pretty, I think, good reason for that. But the ones that he said might not disappear would be the Litecoin and maybe the Namecoin. But he seemed to be of the opinion that the other coins would disappear. I'll tell you his reason in a second, but I wonder if you would agree that we're going to see a big slim down in the number of cryptos out there.
Yes, I agree, because the others have very, very little to differentiate them between each other or Bitcoin.
Yes, I agree, because the others have very, very little to differentiate them between each other or Bitcoin. And also, Bitcoin, the developers use the alts as a laboratory to see what new features can be included, and then include them to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin will end up with all of the nice features, and the other alts will have no advantage at all. However, I think what may happen is you will have new altcoins which don't exist at the moment emerging in the next few months, which will also have staying power, because people can look at these and say, actually, what is valuable in a coin,
I mean, we were
and
speaking online a
use
little earlier
the
about the
experience
idea
of the whole
asset-backed
altcoin
coin.
market.
And I know someone, and I think we'll bring them into your chat, who's working on the concept of having a crypto coin that's backed by an asset like gold. I think that's an interesting concept, and that would be an advance in some ways from where we are now. And some of the Quark, which not everyone's a big fan of, but Quark I think has a quicker, I'm not sure why, maybe they have more frequent blockchain closing or something, but they have a more quick verification. And they brought that verification down substantially from the 10 minutes that is the case for Bitcoins. But the big advantage that Clif mentioned for Bitcoins is really, in a way, a pretty simple and basic one, which is you can spend them. If you want to go and buy something apart from other cryptos, you can actually take your Bitcoins and spend them on lots of things, increasing number all the time. And that's a huge advantage, because if you're sitting there with another crypto, you have to exchange it into Bitcoins in order to spend it. So Cliff thinks that in the end, the other coins will fade away one after, unless they have some superior advantage. And we'll really be left with Bitcoins. And Bitcoins is bound to be the winner because of the great network places you can spend it. The other thing is, as you pointed out already, that Bitcoins, as Cliff says, are anti-fragile, and that's a nice, has a nice ring to it, I suppose, if you read Nassim Taleb's book. But what he means by that is that Bitcoin can actually be changed. It is, after all, software, he says, and the software can be fixed. So if there are problems or lessons to be learned from the other coins, then the people behind Bitcoins can tweak the program and turn it into something stronger than it is today. So I actually heard, when I heard that, I was a little bit skeptical, because I wonder how easy it is to actually change the protocols and the code for Bitcoins.
Well, there has to be consent, because one developer can't just say, oh, well, let's add this.
Well, there has to be consent, because one developer can't just say, oh, well, let's add this. They can just suggest it, and then if the miners see an advantage, if the users see an advantage, then it'll get incorporated. But it's kind of slow, because it requires consent from so many different stakeholders, from miners, from the developers, from the users, from the merchants. They're all part of this large network, and if they don't like the change, then they will not cooperate.
Occasionally, in March, there was a bug discovered, and they had to do a new fork. But it was
occasionally, in March, there was a bug discovered, and they had to do a new fork. But it was fixed very, very quickly. The price fell by about half for about 10 minutes, I think, and then they fixed it, and everything went back again. You know, that's like an emergency fix of a problem. And there are amendments, improvements all the time. But people have to agree. They have to propagate throughout a network, and people have to say okay, or nobody has to say no, and then it'll work.
On Bitcoins. He was telling me about this 51% issue, where, and he said it happened recently. He said there was an attempt of a group to get together, a sort of shadowy group, to create a 51% fork. I thought I understood what he was talking about, but I wonder if that's something you've been able to explain to people.
Well, I think it happened not with Bitcoin. It happened with some old coins like Feather
Well, I think it happened not with Bitcoin. It happened with
The thing about Bitcoin is that
some
the
altcoins
energy
like
cost
Feathercoin
required
succeeded for a bit.
51% attack is so
With the thing
massive
about Bitcoin is that the
no one's going to do it
energy and the
because it's
cost
cheap.
required to
It's the
do
right
a
coin.
51% attack is so massive
But I mean,
that
can you
no
explain
one's
for
going to do
the
it because it's far
newcomers
cheaper
here
just to mine
what exactly is
coins
a
using that
51%
sort of
attack?
money. And the other thing is,
So what happens is that you have a block added to the chain, and the 51% of
51%. So what happens is that you have a block added to the chain,
agrees that
and the 51% of the network
forks off the blockchain.
agrees that a certain block is to be included. Then you have a new chain being forked off the blockchain. So you have one chain which has been moving along in a certain way, and then you have a new chain being created by the people who have attacked it. In a sense, they take over the network because they've taken over that fork. The problem is, with a 51% attack, the cost will be absolutely massive at the moment because of the difficulties over 2 billion compared to how it started. And the other thing would be that they'd only succeed for about 10 minutes in one block before
So
everybody has
how
noticed
does
what's
that actually?
happening
Yeah, I
and
understand
knock
that
them off
there's hash
off
power
that
going
attempt,
on.
and they'll go back to the
It's
original
huge now,
fork.
and
So
the
it's
hashes
actually
represent sort of calculations. They're talking about trillions of hashes per second now. And I don't know whether the figure's over 20 or 25 trillion a second, but it's some huge number. Are those effectively
Yeah,
like
petahash.
votes, the hashes?
Yeah, well,
Mhm.
they are in a way because they are the level of difficulty.
Yes, well, they are in a way
The
because they
order
are the level of
to
difficulty or
the answer to that
the
puzzle.
computing power you need in order to find the answer to that puzzle,
And the
to
cost of
find the
that is
right
massive. That's
Uh,
why you have these
hash, which will
pools
give you those
added
bitcoins.
together, each
And the
adding
cost of that is massive.
hashing power.
That's why
And
you have these pools
payout.
of miners getting together,
Much hashing power
each
is
adding
contributed.
or contributing their
So the
hashing power,
hashes in
and
effect
then sharing
become
the
shares
payout in
in
accordance with how
a
much hashing power
mining
you've contributed.
enterprise. So if
Effectively, and the cost is so high now that you can't really. Nobody would in their right mind do it
Effectively,
51%
and the
attack
cost
because
is so high
they've
now
got to
that
spend so
you
much
can't really, nobody would
hashing
in their
power.
right mind would do
yeah,
a
I mean, I
51% attack
estimated
because
that
they would have to
the
spend so much
energy
in
cost,
terms
and
of
this was
hashing power.
actually a couple of months ago, it's probably even higher now, but the energy cost could be in the order of $250 million, and maybe it's up to energy costs up over 300 million. So we're talking about something like $1 million a day of energy being expended. So if you want 51%, that means you're spending like $500,000 in one day just to assemble that hashing power. It's a lot of money.
And all you do is succeed for 10 minutes,
Mhm.
one block, before when others notice, and they'll go back to the
And all you do is succeed for 10
original
minutes,
blockchain.
one block, before when
Then you
others
have to
notice,
spend that
and they'll
same
go back to the
money again to try again.
original
You have to succeed
blockchain,
because people
and
observe.
then you have to
The
exchange
smaller,
money again to try
yeah,
again, and
it's
you won't
wonderful,
succeed
isn't
because
it? The
people
way
are
that
observing
sort
what
of
you're doing.
built-in
It's very, very
uh,
resilient. Very resilient
algorithm
network.
that creates this kind of self-correcting mechanism. But smaller coins with fewer miners engaged will be much easier to assemble a 51% attack. And you said one was done in feather coins?
Yeah, I heard Feather coins were having an attack. I think they survived.
Oh yeah.
Overcame that, but they still have a.
Yeah, I heard feather coins were having an
These
attack.
things are very
I think
hard
they
to
survived.
maintain.
And maybe
Overcame
this
that,
will be
but
the
they
way
still
that
have
the
that
other
problem
currencies,
because
cryptos
these things are very hard to
take
do
out
to
is
maintain.
somebody succeeds in doing something fishy with the coin, and people lose confidence and begin to sell that coin and move away from it, and we could lose. I mean, are you aware of any cases where coins have dropped off the map?
Yes, I mean there are a whole bunch of dead coins which are not traded anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean there were quite a few of them.
Yes, I mean there are a whole bunch of dead coins which are not traded anymore.
By the way, there seem to be
I mean there were
by
quite a
the way,
few at
there
the
seem to be
beginning,
quite a lot of funny
all
names
kind of
now.
funny
I mean,
names, but
if I look at the list of
but new ones appear all the time.
CoinMarketCap.com has a list of the coins listed by market cap, and there are some pretty funny names on there. The Max coin, I would like to ask you if you have any comments on the Max coin.
Well, obviously Max Kaiser has a large following, and therefore that's gives him a network effect.
Well, obviously, Max Kaiser has a large following, and therefore that gives him the network effect. But I can't see any
One
advantage
thing I
in it over
noticed
the
that was
others
interesting at the Max coin
at all. I mean, there's nothing
apart
even
from
original
the
about
name,
that.
Max, I mean, that's a real vanity thing, isn't it? Putting a name on a cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And, you know, Max and his fans would be the ones to appreciate that the best.
It is, yeah.
That Max coin came in number 18 on the list of market cap. And the market cap, from memory, was just under $5 million, which isn't bad for a new coin. But what really struck me and impressed me a bit about the Max coin was the volume traded in one day. And admittedly, this is only one day. It could be very different tomorrow. In the last 24 hours, was over $1 million. I think it was $1.8 million of volume, which is a huge percentage of its market cap. Something funny is going on there, obviously. Max must be at his own computer going nuts and making that volume happen. But it was the fourth most traded coin and number 18 on the market cap. So that was really an observation. Maybe it will look very different tomorrow.
I think it explains that if you have a good following, if you have a network, you can launch any.
I think it explains that if you have a good following, if you have a network, you can launch any crypto without any particular redeeming features and do quite well out of it. Although with the Max coin, they didn't pre-mine,
if
which
you
meant
wanted to
that
do it,
presumably Max, his people didn't actually make anything on it.
What you would do is pre-mine a lot of coins, put them in friendly hands at a very low price, announce your coin, market it, the price goes up, and all those
Certainly, yes.
people who had the pre-mine coin suddenly are sitting on a fortune. The problem they have is they've got a lot of coins, but they don't really have spendable cash. They have to find a way of getting their new crypto, wonderful crypto, into either Bitcoin or something else they can spend.
It's normally into Bitcoin, but these crypto exchanges like CryptC or BTC-E.
It's normally into Bitcoin, but there are these crypto exchanges like CryptC or BTC-E only have a subset of coins. I mean, I can check whether Macron is traded on CryptC, which is the largest one.
Yeah, they will.
Have a look at CryptC now.
Whether they do MaxCoin, because they've got everything.
Yeah,
There
they
are
will.
hundreds of them on here.
Let's have a look whether they do MaxCoin, because they've got everything.
Whatever we call that.
They've got hundreds of them on here.
Yep, they do
Doge,
MaxCoin.
doggy coin, whatever you call that.
Do you show the volume? I showed 1.8 million. On,
Yep, they do MaxCoin.
Bitcoin, which is 122.
Yeah,
so
volume.
we multiply
They've
that
shown
by
the volume in
7, almost
BTC,
700 now.
Bitcoin, which
It should
is
still be almost $1 million
122.
on that exchange.
Yep,
And presumably, yeah.
It's trading at 0.0025
Yep,
Bitcoin,
yep.
which is pretty good.
And this trade
Yeah,
In
so
fact,
is trading at
trading
0.0025
high and light.
Bitcoin, which is pretty good.
that is interesting.
In fact, it's trading a higher than Litecoin, which is interesting.
So, like,
Although
2 or 3
Litecoin
times
has a
but
volume of
the actual
310.
price of one coin is higher on the Max coin.
Yeah.
Interesting. I thought I've covered most of the points. Oh, there was one more interesting point Max mentioned, and we'll see if this is true. But his software, I don't know if you're really familiar with it, but he uses webbots. He's searching the web to make predictions about the future, and a lot of his predictions are pretty dramatic, and actually quite a lot of them haven't happened, but some have, and he's had some amazing calls, very specific forecasts he's made that have happened. So I find it to listen to him, and he predicts that there will be 3 technical crises. They're not necessarily in the crypto market, but he says the one we're seeing now in the crypto market is one of those technical crises, and there will be 2 more. It could hit foreign currencies, it could hit something else, but he says we're into the first one now in cryptos, and he thinks this crisis will peak in early March. So
is this Clif?
yes, it is, and he said it pretty fast, but I picked it up. And
So is this Clif? Is this Clif?
And
Yeah, it's Clif. Yeah.
and it could mean that the Bitcoin might be under some pressure, at least on MtGox, for example, for another couple of weeks. And it might be that we'll see, a continuing window here and bring the coin for a little bit longer. But Clif is very bullish, and it thinks the price will be much higher later in the year, but not quite so high as the article you sent me, and that's what I'm on to now, because you did send me an article from Fortune, which is a pretty mainstream source, and the title of the article, and it was dated the 18th, so it's pretty up to date, is could there be a question again? There was an article you passed me with a very intriguing title. Could there be a $50,000 Bitcoin? And in Fortune magazine, pretty mainstream source. So, what do you think? Is it possible? 50,000?
Yes, I think it's
Yes, I think it's not as unlikely as it might appear, because when I was at a meetup a couple of weeks ago with Andreas Antonopoulos here in London, he was asked what is stopping Bitcoin going sky high. He said, all you need is adoption, more people, because he said we are now in the like 0.001% of the population, or a very, very tiny part of the population who actually know about Bitcoin, use Bitcoin. And adoption will make the volume and the price and the value go sky
it's
high.
interesting because I looked at the Forbes article, and there's some numbers in there, and to share those with you now. They said if 300 billion, and they were actually saying if we use Bitcoins in place of cable and wireless and Western Union and so forth, if 300 billion in international remittances was conducted in Bitcoin, that volume alone would push the price to $42,000. Now, I don't understand quite how he comes up with that number, but presumably what he's doing is he's taking the $300 billion and dividing it by the number of Bitcoins. And I think if we did that calculation now, they're ultimately going to be, 21 million Bitcoins? So if we divide 300 billion by 21 million, that would be the same as dividing 300,000 by 21, right?
except that the 21 million won't be there until 2140.
Except that the 21 million won't be there until 2140, and the curve is getting steeper. So I think it's better to work with 12, 13,
so
14
if we
million
divide
rather than 21.
by 12, then that number is going to be still a little bit lower than 42,000, but it gets us very close to that number. But I mean, to me, that's a kind of fallacious argument because one Bitcoin can be spent more than once. So I don't know whether they mean 300 billion per day. If it means you must be making some assumption about how often the coin can get spent. But if the same coin can get spent and respent, then we can do quite a lot of remittances with one single coin. So we don't need, one coin for each dollar of remittances. So I think there is a bit of a potential flaw there. But, I do think it's an interesting point because the larger the volume is going through Bitcoins, the more of them are going to sit in people's accounts and represent that market cap. And of course, the other point is that it's the marginal transaction, isn't it, that sets the value of the market cap?
Yes, it's very shallow.
Yes, it's very shallow.
I mean, how would you put, if you could do this,
liquidity we have?
how would you put a valuation on what Bitcoins are worth?
It's very hard because it's mainly the network effect. So the more
it's very hard because it's mainly the network effect. So the more people join the network, the more
there's
value
sort of two sides of that, right?
the coins
There's
will have.
the network, which is you and me, we own
And
these
that's a
things.
major thing.
But it's also the network of merchants. And I guess a balanced network would be one where you know, the people who want to spend the coins are holding them, and there are enough merchants out there to serve their basic needs. So that would be kind of balanced, and that might be a lot, you know, 1,000 people for each merchant, or people, or even 20 people for each merchant. But it, you know, it's some kind of balance would be the most healthy thing. Or what, and they're both growing on both sides right now, aren't they? More people are
They are.
owning the coin, and more merchants as well. In fact, somebody posted on GEI,
Yeah.
and I'll put the link to the chart. They compared the value of Western Union, which is a publicly quoted company, the market cap of Western Union, with the market cap of the Bitcoin. I thought that was a pretty interesting exercise, because they're both sort of payment systems, aren't they? So, but on the other hand, I presume Western Union gets valued in some sense on the profitability. And if we did all of the transactions that Western Union does on Bitcoins, the profitability of that enterprise would be pretty small in relation to the profitability that Western Union makes, if they, assuming they make any money these days.
But the
Oh,
volume
certainly,
would go up,
yes.
because you would have all the people who do remittances now will be shifting from.
But the volume would go up because you would have all the people who do remittances now will be shifting from Western Union to Bitcoin. And so you'd have many, many millions of new users joining the network, which will give the network more value. And I find whenever I speak to people, I always get a response. Oh, it's very interesting. Can I buy some Bitcoin? So everybody who talks to people will increase that network because people are very willing to join it.
Buying some Bitcoins every day. And I wonder if you could talk about that and your view on Bitcoins going forward from here.
Okay, I think we're seeing a window of opportunity at the moment where the price is artificially low because of the problems.
Okay, I think we're seeing a window of opportunity at the moment where the price is artificially low because of the problems with the exchanges, the DDoS attacks, the malleability problem, things which have taken the price lower. And but these are artificial, mainly because the price on GOX is very low. Once that's sorted out, it's going to go back again. And I do not think it'll be long before we see another $900 Bitcoin.
I think
so
too. I mean,
buying it at 620 is really a good deal.
I think I'll be buying more. I mean, the main problem someone like me has is how do you actually pay for the coin? Because in my case, what happened was, you know, you and I agreed a price, and I happen to have some money in PayPal, not very much, unfortunately, but I send you the money via PayPal, and you send me the coins. So that's one way to do it. But how else? I mean, I guess I would have to have a bank account and open up, how do I get my money into the exchange so I can actually make the purchase?
Well, you have to use a bank, and it has to be a bank in a country which.
Well, you have to use a bank,
For example, I use
and it has to be a bank in a country which accepts you to do that. For example, I use a bank in Germany because over there the laws are much more open than they are here in England. And my customers pay into
So
that
if I'm
bank.
sitting in
And
London,
as soon as the money
for
appears, I
example,
give them a
and I want
price
to buy coins
because I have
from
funds
you,
on the exchanges and I can do
I
that.
have an account with Barclays or whoever, and most of my money's sitting in pounds. What happens?
It's very
next?
easy.
Depends how much. If it's only a small amount, say only up to 1,000 or say 2,000 pounds, you can do an instant transfer to.
Depends how much. If it's only a small amount, say only up to 1,000 or say 2,000 pounds, you can do an instant transfer to one of my UK accounts. And then as soon as it's there, which only takes about 10 minutes in the UK between the banks, I'll give you a firm price
So from the
and get
time
those
I
coins
decide-
for
from the
you
time I
in
call
a sort
you
of
and make my
one hour
transfer,
window.
And I can do that pretty quickly in the UK using various methods online. I guess I can use my online banking facility.
Yep.
I transfer the money into your account. It's there. You see the money there, and you send me the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that can all happen inside of an hour, in theory.
Yeah, normally it does. Yeah, that's with
Exactly.
relatively small amounts up to 2,000 or 3,000 pounds. With bigger amounts.
Yeah, normally it does. Yeah, that's with relatively small amounts up to 2,000 or 3,000 pounds. With bigger amounts, like I've had some quite large amounts recently, then it goes
But I
into
mean, someone who's
directly to
starting
the
out, they're
German
probably going
account,
to want to start
where
with,
it's
one or
much
two
easier to do
coins or
larger
something to start
transfers.
out, maybe. perhaps 5 or 10. They can do that with, and maybe one way to do it would be to buy a few coins every day. I gather that's what you're doing yourself, is you're buying a certain number of coins every day.
I am, because the price is variable, and I find different times of
I am, because the price is variable, and I find different times of day the price varies considerably. So I
You
kind
always
of
buy from the same
limit
exchange, or do
myself to a few thousand, $7,000 a day at the moment.
you, when you buy those coins, or you can buy from your
I've got
customers if
2
the
exchanges
customer
I
wants to
use.
sell you coins,
I
right?
do that too, but I've had probably about 40 customers in the last few weeks, of whom
I do that too, but I've had probably about 40 customers
come back
in the
again.
last few weeks, of whom
2 have actually wanted to sell.
a number have
So the-
come back again to buy more,
Back when they paid it.
and only 2
they
have
took some
actually
profits.
wanted to sell.
Both of them did, yeah.
And both
And
got
they did that
got more money
recently, or
back
how
than
were
they.
you able to capture a profit?
Well, one did it about 6 months
Both
ago.
of them did, yeah.
But had they waited another 2 months,
Well, one did it about 6 months ago, but had they waited another 2 months, they would have made a much larger profit. But that's the name of the game. And the other one was about a month ago. But normally people just buy and hold. And mostly, actually, they want me to hold for them because they don't trust the
As
process
we
of
found out, but I mean, we sorted
dealing
that
with
out
their
in
own
the end,
wallets,
but
which
is-
can be a
is
bit
this, it surprised me because this thing's been
complex.
around for a while, that those kind of
It-
glitches still occur from time to time.
well, what happened there was one of my wallets,
Mhm.
I got maybe 100 of them, was corrupt.
Well,
in the
what
process of
happened there was one of my wallets, and I've got maybe 100 of them, was corrupted in the process of transferring, because I have a security system where I have to transfer wallets from machine to machine for security. So they're never online at all for more than a very short time. And in that process, one of my wallets got corrupted. So it sent coins and it said they'd gone, but they hadn't gone. So when I went back, reloaded with another copy on another server, and put it on the
again, we've got
on the
this
net,
guy
it went
sitting
through
around
straight
who wants
away.
to do business with you, and we should probably attach to this podcast. In fact, you can mention the sorry, the URL that people might contact, because I want to make it easy for them to contact you. What's your .com address?
It's xecnet.com, execnet.com.
It's
And for someone new to the game who's starting out pretty small, what's the kind of
xecnet.com, execnet.com.
smaller size that you would happily take?
I think the smallest I've taken is about £200 so far,
Okay.
which is about
I think the smallest I've taken is about £200 so far.
That's not really normal business for
Which
you,
isn't-
but
which is
it's not a
about
bad place to
what,
start for some.
um, $300.
between,
Mhm.
say, that's about 3,000.
No. Normal is a range between, say,
And you said
that's
you
about
were quite happy
3,000
in
is
small
kind of
amounts to
normal.
make prices in
I've had
sterling as well
20,000
as in,
at
as
various
in dollars.
transactions.
So the guy who's buying from you doesn't have to suffer the exchange rate.
Yeah.
You build that
Yes,
into your
yeah.
price, and you know ahead of time what that is. Well, that's a big advantage, I would have thought. And do you see this in your own
yeah.
firm there becoming automated in the
Yeah, I do.
future, or will continue to be?
Yes,
Mhm.
because I find everywhere I speak, I get customers, even people who hardly heard
Yes, because I find everywhere I speak, I get customers, even people who hardly heard of it. It's like Bitcoin, the process, the protocol is there under the surface. Most people have heard of it, but they don't actually know what it is. When I explain it, their eyes kind of light up and they say, "Wow, can I buy some?" And they always surprise me because I think, "Oh, they're going to buy 1 or 2," but they end up buying 10
That's
because.
interesting. So okay,
I'm really
so
surprised
suppose
how
that I
much
bought some,
money
I
people are
probably would
willing
buy some
to
more
put
in
into
the
this.
too distant future. If I buy the coin now, I'm paying approximately what price?
in
Mhm.
dollars,
Yeah.
something like 630,
Um, in dollars,
Okay, I did notice that last
something
time
like
when the price went
630,
up,
640,
it didn't stop
depending
at
on
some
the day.
random number.
Mhm.
It stopped more or less exactly at the gold price.
Mhm.
So I don't think that's an accident.
Mhm.
I think probably there are people out there who say to
Mhm.
themselves, "Well, I like bitcoins, but If I can have an ounce of gold for 1 Bitcoin, I'll make that trade. Maybe they won't do that for all their coins, but they might do it for a certain point. And I think it would be my intention, if I bought now, to look for that gold price to be retested. And then as we get up and we're almost there, I probably wouldn't wait for it to happen just at that moment. I might plan to sell half my coins. And if I did that now, I'd be selling them at more than twice the current price of Bitcoins. So I would effectively get my money back by selling half my coins at the gold price, if it goes there. And I'd have the rest of my coins for free. Do you think that's a sensible strategy?
It is. In a sense, the volatility can work for you. As long as you have funds on the exchanges, you can always...
It is. In a sense, the volatility can work for you. As long as you have funds on the exchanges, you can always, when it's quite high, you can sell. When it goes down, you can buy. And that way, if you perform the operation a few times, you can build up a lot of
The guy
Bitcoins
who
for
does
nothing.
that particular operation, that's
Because
kind
the
of a more
volatility is
basic
there.
thing, 'cause it means a doubling of the price, and you don't
Yes.
normally see that too quickly. But if a guy sold half his coins at that point, he's now trading with freed Bitcoins, he might speculate or have some fun buying and selling other cryptos. And perhaps there's quite a lot of people doing that now.
I think so. More and more. When you realize, if you want to divert your time to staring at a screen...
I think so. More and more. When you realize, if you want to divert your time to staring at a screen and looking at numbers moving, then you can make a living at it full time. All you need is your initial investment, and you can cream off, I don't know, $1,000 a day, I suppose, if you want to do that.
Okay, so
But
So
it's
you
an
see
opportunity
the,
we have at the
I mean,
moment,
actually the
which will not
volatility,
last too long.
until
I
this
think it'll
latest
last
drop,
a few
there
months
was a
yet.
period of
Yeah.
some weeks where the volatility was coming smaller and smaller ranges, and then we had a breakout to the downside, as it turned out. And if we see a breakout to the upside, we could easily get a doubling of the price, I suppose.
Easy. I mean, it's obvious why we got this downside, because of this...
Easy. I mean, it's obvious why we got this downside, because of these
Yeah,
problems
well, I mean,
with the
the
exchanges.
story, you know,
It's very
buying
obvious,
blood in the
because
street, and
otherwise the
blood
news
in
has
the
been pretty
street on
good.
MtGox at the moment, so
There
people,
is. Now is a very, very good time to buy. Today,
Exactly.
in fact, finished.
There is. Now is a very good time to
well,
buy.
look, I think this is
Today in
probably a
particular,
pretty
in
good
fact,
point to finish
once we
this
finish, I think
particular
I'll get some
discussion.
more.
I would look forward to doing another one. Perhaps we'll do one-on-one. There's another chap we've been talking about earlier today who we might bring on. So, you know, I'll plan to put this up on YouTube, and hopefully we'll get increasing number of people looking at these videos and giving us comments and questions, and we can address those. We might even eventually do, as we did before, a larger chat, bring in some people. So I thank you very much, and look forward to the next one.